name's Mark and welcome to my YouTube video account of the Coast to Coast walk that I undertook in March 2025. For those of you who don't know, the Coast to Coast walk was devised by a gentleman called Alfred Wainwright in 1972. It's a long distance footpath that stretches across the whole of northern England from coast to coast. It's approximately 180 miles. I did the walk in 12 days. I spent 6 nights in a little bivvy tent while camping and 5 nights in hostel and bed and breakfast accommodation. This worked out really well for me. It gave me time to recoup and dry out my kit and sort out any issues. So that was great. The weather was kind-ish, considering it was March. It threw everything at me. I mean, I had rain, drizzles, sleet, snow, ice and wind. I actually had some sun, which is pretty cool as well. But generally the weather stayed kind, so that I'm really thankful of. I had a blast. Memory will last with me forever. I've always wanted to do the Coast to Coast walk. It's always on my list. It's the first time I've ever done a through hike, so that was really cool. I met one other Coast to Coast walker doing the walk from east to west. And I did the walk from west to east, so I started in St Bees and finished in Robin Hood's Bay. So we had a good old chat, which was quite cool. It was generally quiet considering it was March, but I quite like walking personally in cooler weather, so I'm not really great at walking in hot weather, so that's why I chose to do it in March. And I was lucky with the weather, lucky-ish anyway, considering the time of year, and it worked out really well. I saw some great sights, which is really great, and during the video I will obviously talk about the legs, the certain sections of the walk, and the mileage as well. So I would also post another video with the kit and the equipment I took, and I will explain why my reasoning for taking certain kit and equipment. I tried to do it quite lightweight. I didn't want to spend much money because I'm on a bit of a budget tour in life, so I was using some old kit. Some of my kit's second hand as well, but I will talk more about the kit and if it worked and if something could have been tweaked. I used a really good map. I used the A to Z Coast to Coast Walk Adventure Series. So basically what I'm going to do in the video, I'm going to talk about each individual section, where I started, where I finished, and also the mileage for the day and where I stayed, and any accommodation and any sights I saw. So I will do that. Hopefully you like the format. Please bear with me because it's the first time I've done a YouTube video. I'm using quite old equipment. I'm using an old Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Hopefully as I do more videos, which hopefully I will, the videos will get better. So I hope you get something out of this and some of the information helps you on your walk. So yeah, definitely recommend you do this walk. So I will actually now talk about the actual routes and the legs and the days on the walk. So I used the Coast to Coast Walk A to Z Adventure Series map by Ordnance Survey, 1 in 25,000 scale. Really good quality. The cover's got a slight waterproof sheen to it, so that was really handy. Lots of information on the inside. Information about the Coast to Coast walk there, which is really nice. I like this at the beginning. The walk is actually split into sections, larger sections, so you can plan different stages which span the Lake District, the Yorkshire Dales and the North York Moors. That was really nice. So just getting back to the walk, so I started at St Bees, so I was walking the Coast to Coast from west to east. I think I mentioned this before. I started to walk on the 12th of March 2025, so about 9:30 in the morning I got the train and started then. It was a really nice day. So I started walking out. I got my pebble, dipped my boots in the sea, and then started to walk. It was great, really nice day, really good views of the Isle of Man and southern Scotland, so that was nice. The path's quite well defined when you start. It takes you up down this little inlet here. Saw quite a nice selection of birds as well, so if you like your wildlife. You pass a little lookout platform, and then you head towards the lighthouse around North Head, which is strange because you're walking north before you actually walking east. But that's the route I took. That's the standard route as marked out on the map. So I walked right the way around here. You get to a little quarry there, and then you start to cut inland, which you guys have probably seen on other videos. I passed through a little hamlet or village called Sandwith, which did have a pub. I didn't need anything, no food, so I had a good stock of water, etc., and food on me. So the path makes its way inland, which is nice. Carry on, heading towards, actually it's heading towards Morrow. So I passed through Morrow and Cleator. As I got to this area here, you've probably seen on videos, coast to coast videos, this path was actually closed due to fallen trees from a past storm. I did take a risk, a bit naughty of me. I did go through the wood. It did take a bit longer, but there was no wind, and I assessed the risks, and I did get through okay. It was a bit of a flap, but I did get through. And then you open up onto the hillside here, heading towards Dent. Just quickly going back to Cleator, actually, there was a shop here in the past, but the shop seems to have gone. So if you do need to resupply or get any food, I think you can actually walk into Cleator Moor there. And there are various accommodations in this area if you need to. When I come on top of Dent, there's a great view of the lakes, which is really nice. So that was great. Some of the fells actually had some snow on at that point, which is nice. So I carried on down through the plantation here. It's quite steep coming down. This way I came down, and then I headed through, as you guys have probably seen in other videos, it's the Nanny Catch Valley here, which was really nice. This is where I stopped and had a bit of lunch. Had a packed lunch. I carried on, heading towards Ennerdale Bridge. I didn't have any main plans. It was quite fluid. Like I said to you before, I was carrying a little bivvy tent. I had a good list of accommodations that were open this time of year. Bear in mind that some weren't because it was still on winter timings. I did actually, I briefly mentioned this before, the whole walk took me 12 days. I spent 6 nights wild camping in my bivvy tent, and 5 nights in hostels and bed and breakfast. So 12 days and 11 nights. Getting back to this, I got to Ennerdale. I just missed, I think there's a little hub centre there that closes at 4:30. I've just missed that. I got there about 4:45, just sod's law. But I did find the pub, and the pub served really nice food. Really nice roast dinner I had in there. The pub was called the Fox and Hounds, I believe. I'll put a little link and information up on the video. So the Fox and Hounds, really friendly, had a lovely roast dinner, big portions, so that really set me up nicely. Stayed in there over an hour, about an hour and a half. It was relaxing. But when I come out, the sun was setting, because bear in mind it was pretty early in the season in March, so still quite winterish. So the sun was setting around about 6 p.m. So I come out of there around about sunset time. So I pushed on towards Ennerdale Water, for this little plantation here. You'll notice on the map I did mark when I was planning it months before where I could get food and water, and maybe accommodation and maybe even bivvy sites. But I did carry on to the actual Ennerdale Water here. By now the sun was setting. I took a decision to actually go around the top of the lake as opposed to this way. I have been this way on a few occasions, just out day walking, but it was dark and I didn't want to take a risk on the rocks. It's quite rocky and scrambly, this section, as you've seen probably on other videos. So I did walk around this way, which is quite nice. It did give you the option for the coast to coast. So there was a sign that said coast to coast this way or that way. So I took this way, which is the north side of Ennerdale Water, which is quite nice. The moon was quite bright, so the sun had set as I was walking the top of Ennerdale, but everything was quite lit up from the moonlight. They come across the top. As you walk down, you pass the Low Gillifwaite Field Centre, and there's a YH8 Gillifwaite as well. So I passed those. My intention for the first night was to bivvy camp, wild camp at the head of Ennerdale. But I thought I could try to get on to Black Sail Hut, I didn't take the high route. I kept low on this path here. It just follows all the way down, right the way to Blacksail Hut. So that was day one, and I did bivvy just a little bit down here, sort of just off out of the woods. There were no people around. I was on my own. Blacksail Hut was actually closed for the winter, so this is a bit unfortunate because I wanted to go and have a brew in the morning and charge my phone, but it was actually shut for the winter. But that wasn't a problem. Like I said, I did have supplies on me. So that day was day one. It was a 23.5-mile day, so reasonably long, but quite nice. I was lucky with the weather. I did mention before the coast to coast. When I did the coast to coast in March, it was the 12th of March. It did throw everything at me. I had really nice weather, but conversely, I had wind, I had sleet, drizzle, rain, snow. So I had a whole gambit of weather, but generally it stayed quite nice in the 12 days that it took me to do the walk. The next day, day two, I walked up Loftbeck, heading towards Honister. I was hoping that was open so I could get a coffee and some breakfast and resupply. So I did come across the top here. It was quite cold actually. I met one other walker coming this way. It was quite early in the morning, so again I didn't meet anyone coming up Loftbeck. Went into the cafe, it was open, had a lovely breakfast. I'll put some information up on the screen about that. And I also bought some food for lunch and for dinner later on. I've mentioned this before, I didn't have a stove on the walk. I chose not to take one. I was only drinking water, electrolytes and energy bars. And then when I went past a cafe or a pub, etc., I'd just have a meal. So that's the way I was doing it. It actually worked quite well for me. So I stayed in Honister for just about an hour, had my breakfast, got some food, carried on the walk down here towards Seatoller. The path skirts off here, and I wanted to go past, there's a YHA here, at Borrowdale YHA, which is quite nice because it was starting to rain at this point. So I nipped inside, filled my water bottles up. They've got a water filling station there, which is quite nice. So I filled my water bottles up, had a bit of a break because it was raining inside, and they'd actually sell fruit and snacks. So I bought some fruit, bananas, orange, apples and some chocolate bars, which is quite nice. When I come out, it was slightly drizzling, but I wanted to push on through Rosswaite. It's beautiful down here. Stonewaite's lovely. Come right up this little valley here. Again, not many people around. As I come up the top here, actually as I come up towards Greenup Gill, towards Linen or Lining Crag, it started to sleet here a bit more, and by the time I got to the top, coming over the top here at Greenup Edge, it was actually snowing. Navigation wasn't too bad, the path was reasonably okay, but yeah, it was snowing there. I got to this point, I made a note here, someone in a previous YouTube video said be careful of the navigation here. So I did take the right path, and I wanted to take this path. I didn't want the high route, so I took this path here, Grasmere Common. So I come down here, pretty straightforward. I had my map and compass with me, but I did have a GPS backup just in case, so everything was good. The mist and the sleety snow was starting to clear as I dropped down in Far Easdale Gill, is it? Heading towards Grasmere. I didn't go into Grasmere, I didn't need to resupply, I had food. So as I come down, the path skirts up here, away from Grasmere. There's plenty of shops and accommodations in Grasmere, but I didn't choose to go there. I crossed here, there's a pub called the Travellers Rest. Again, I bypassed that. I just carried on. So I wanted to get up to at least Grisdale Tarn or past it. The sun was starting to set again as I'm coming up here. I took this path here by the side of Tungill. The sun had set by the time I was up here, so it was dark. As I was coming up Tungill towards Grisdale Tarn here, it was really cold, quite windy as well. So when I got up to the top, there was ice and snow around. I did plan to bivvy here, but because of the wind and the ice and snow, I thought, well, I'll carry on taking the low route down here and set up a bivvy round about here out the wind. So I used my little bivvy tent to wild camp here, which is a good move really, because I was a little bit out the wind there. So that was day 2. That was a 16.5 mile day. That was from Blacksail Hut to Grisdale Tarn area. So that was okay. Quite a fairly long-ish day, but yeah, that was really nice. The sunset, like I say, was setting this time of year at 6 p.m. I was lucky with there was a moonlight as well, so I could see. So that was really nice. But like I say, it was really cold. The next morning, day 3, I was up. Beautiful day, really sunny day, down the valley. No one around. I think there was a mountain biker, and then when I got further down, there was a farmer who owned a farm down here. Can't remember what farm it was. I had a good chat with him about his sheep, and when he put the cattle out, he said I could cut through his farm, but I declined because I wanted to sort of stick to this route. As I come down here, I was heading towards Patterdale. So this is day 3, yes, and it's, like I say, it was quite cold but clear skies. When I got to Patterdale, I wanted to have some lunch, and the shop that was there years ago, or had been previously there, closed, so I opted to go in a pub, but the pub was shut. The pub, I put a link up to the pub, so I'm not too sure. It was in Patterdale. The pub was called the White Lion. I put some information up, and I had to wait about an hour and a half, maybe a bit more, for the pub to open, because it didn't open until 2 o'clock. But I just had a nice rest. So like I say, I was never going to do this coast to coast on record timing. I just wanted to take my time and just see the sights. Like I say, it took me 12 days, so I was in no rush. So I actually waited there at least, probably about 2 hours there for the pub to open. When it did open, I'm glad it did, because I had a lovely meal. I had some fish and chips, a nice soft drink, just regenerated myself. So I stayed in there around about 4 o'clock, maybe 3:45, come out and carried on the walk. Carried on up here, and this path actually takes you up towards Angle Tarn. Here, again, I saw a couple of people around, but not many. As I passed Angle Tarn, there was no one around at this point. Heading towards the north, I saw red deer, because there is a deer forest here, and there were red deer quite close, which was nice. As I come up the top here, again, the sun was setting when I was coming up towards Kidsty Pike. By the time it got to the top of Kidsty Pike, the sun had set, but luckily again there was a nice moon, so I could see. It was a really great feeling actually. I mean, there was ice on the top and very cold, but really nice. The solitude was fantastic. Really nice sunset as well. I thought, well, I'm going to think about bivvying. So, by the way, Kidsty Pike, I was now on mile 49 there, as you can see. By the way, if you do use this map, you see these little mile markers. I just went through and actually marked the miles on them, so you can actually see what mile you're actually on. So at Kidsty Pike, it's mile 49, which is quite handy. So I recommend doing that if you can. I dropped off Kidsty Pike and I bivvied down here near Kidsty House. There's a bit of a steep section down here. Previous YouTubers have put be careful, and definitely be careful, especially in the dark. Like I was in the dark. But I didn't find it too bad, so I found a nice little spot to bivvy. Set up my bivvy and got in that for the night. It was a pretty cold night actually. So that was day 3. That was a 10-mile day. So that wasn't such a long day, but there was quite a lot of height gain and descent. So that was day 3, and where I bivvied actually spot on there, dead on 50-mile marker. The next day, another beautiful day. Really clear skies, a lovely view right the way down Haweswater Reservoir. I was up really early in the morning because it was freezing cold. I had ice on the inside of my bivvy and I was frozen, so I had to get up moving. It was about 5:30 in the morning. It hadn't even daybreak. Sunrise hadn't even happened. So I was up moving around and I was off. But I soon warmed up because it was beautiful weather. And walking down the side of Haweswater on this day was actually fantastic. The weather, like I said, it was beautiful blue skies. I didn't meet one person from when I woke up from my bivvy camp right the way to Shap Abbey. Not one person all the way down. It was fantastic. So you carry on down Haweswater to the reservoir. Again, like you see, I might have earmarked different Bivi sites that I could choose from, especially based on the fact you could get water here. By the way, I didn't take a water filter. I took a coffee filter and I took some Oasis water purification tablets. So I'd filter the heavy sediments out using the coffee filter, and then I'd use the Oasis purification tablets to get rid of the waterborne diseases, viruses, bacteria. So that worked well for me. Anyway, I carried on towards, it says Honesty Box there, but that wasn't there. It's probably just applicable in the spring and summer. I saw a red squirrel, I think it was in this area, which is really nice. Carried on here, it's a long slog, I think people have mentioned this before, longer than what you think, so it took quite a while to get down to here. As I'm heading towards Shap Abbey, which is there, I had a bit of a rest. Took the opportunity to take some of my kit out of my rucksack and just air it and dry it because it was condensation, a bit damp. Worked perfectly because it was sunny and a bit windy. Headed towards Shap, great resupply. Went in, I think it's the Dales Co-op to resupply. Really good cafe there. The cafe, just going to look at my notes, bear me a second. The cafe was, yeah, it's called the Birchwood Cafe in Shap, and I recommend it. I had a really nice breakfast, like I say, and the coffee was lovely. So that was much needed. So after that, I continued the walk, past mile marker 60, over the M6 motorway, heading towards Hardendale Quarry. Odendale, carried on down the path here. This is Wicker Street there. Carried on, heading towards, right, so by now, it's getting late in the day. And again, the sun's starting to set. So I was thinking about bivvying on the moors up here. So I got to Robin Hood's grave. I think I saw Robin Hood's grave. It's a bit unclear, but past Robin Hood's grave and carried on round. So at this point here, the sun was really setting, so I was looking at bivvy site. So I did find a little bivvy site on the open moor here, so I bivvied here for the night. So that was day 4, and which was Kisty House, which is near Haweswater, to this area here near Robin Hood's grave. That's where I bivvied. That was a 14-mile day, so that was quite a nice day, and the weather was kind to me, extremely cold during this night. So the night that I spent here was freezing, absolutely freezing. So it must have been -7, maybe more. So there was ice, heavy frost. It stayed clear, but there was no snow. It was just a clear night and heavy frost, -7 at least. So that was day 4 done. The next day, I was up early again, probably before sunrise to keep moving. So I was on the move there. This is now day 5. Orton Scar. I didn't go into Orton. A lot of people going there to resupply to Orton or even stay, but I didn't. I carried on. Coming across the top here, Sun Digging Farm, which is quite a famous. Other YouTubers mentioned this as a cafe, but I just plugged on there. I didn't see a sign, so it might have been close to the winter, but I'm not 100% certain. But I carried on past there. Cow Dub. I come down this area here. Back marker 71 now. Ravenstonedale Moor here on the High Dales Way. So the coast to coast signs were quite sketchy. This wasn't yet an official route, so they're putting out the new signs. It's 2025. But now, as you guys probably already know, the coast to coast is now a nationally recognised trail. But yeah, I was following the High Dales Way at this point, the signs for that. So I'm heading now, heading towards Smardale Bridge. So I've come across the top here. There's a viaduct, Smardale Viaduct, which is nice. It's a lovely, beautiful area here. As I come back round over Smardale Bridge, I think I paused, had a bit of a break there, took in the sights, took a few photographs. Mile marker 75. Come up Smardale Fell on the open moors here. Now heading towards Kirkby Stephen. So as I come down this point here, It was quite funny really, because there was a big drone flying above me. And when I got to the bottom, it was the police drone unit. They were doing some training, so I had a good chat with the lads there, tell them about what I was doing on the coast to coast. And they actually did a bit of videoing of me, which is really great of them. Thank you very much. I got a little clip of me coming down there. It's not much, but because I didn't actually take a drone on this coast to coast walk, so I got a little bit of a clip of me there. Thank you to the Cumbria Police for that, the drone unit. Great lads. Carried on. You go underneath a railway for a little tunnel here, and then as you pop out the other side, you're now heading towards Kirkby Stephen. Again, it's getting quite late in the day. It must have been about 4:30 now, maybe a bit later. I was looking to spend the night, on my first night actually, in accommodations. I was looking at maybe a B&B or the hostel. I heard there was a hostel there. Unfortunately, when I got there, I found the hostel. I spoke to this lady and she pointed me in the right direction, but the hostel was closed for the winter. But I didn't know that. So beforehand, I'd actually walked up and knocked on the door, and someone did actually answer it, luckily. And there was someone staying there. I think there was like a caretaker person, or I don't know who, but they let me in. And fortunately, the people that run it, or the owners, were away, but this person let me stay the night. So I managed to stay in the hostel. I had the whole hostel to myself. I was in a dorm of about 30 bunks, and I had the whole place to myself, which was really unusual. So I had the use of the kitchen. There was a great drying room there. So I recommend I think it was in an old Methodist church or hall in Kirkby Stephen. So I recommend that independent hostel. So that was fantastic. So that was day 5 finished, and a total mile distance of 15 miles walked, which isn't too bad really. But I was definitely needing accommodation by this point, just to sort of recoup, have a nice hot shower, dry some of my kit out, and cook my own food. I resupplied in a co-op, which was in Kirkby Stephen, which was nice. So I stocked up all my food and snacks and fruit. And like I say, that was day 5 and 15 miles. The next day was day 6. The weather was a bit overcast. I walked out of Kirkby Stephen. Funny enough, I must have missed a sign here somewhere. I had to double back just a bit. The sign wasn't clear, but I managed to hook up onto that sign, back onto the coast to coast. Coming out of Kirkby Stephen, there's a bit of a climb up here. And as you climb up, I'm heading now towards Hartley Fell, and then the path splits at this point. I did take the red and blue routes. It says May and November. I was actually doing this walking early in March. I wanted to see 9 Standards Rig. There hadn't been a lot of rain, however, it was still very boggy coming up here. So I was heading towards 9 Standards Rig, which is here. I got up there. There was no one around. It was quite misty actually. The mist had come down, so I didn't get great views. Luckily the paths were quite well defined. Carried on down here. I took this route here, which is the blue August-November route, cutting across the moors here, which is still quite boggy. I didn't wear trail runners for this walk. I wore Gore-Tex boots, which is fortunate, and my gaiters as well. So I come across there and I cut down here, and now I'm heading towards Whitsunndale and Ravenseat Farm. So I went through past Ravenseat Farm. Now I'm coming down here. Very nice area, very remote. Didn't see anyone coming across here. There was a few people in the farmyard, but I just passed on through. Now mile marker 89. I'm in Swaledale, which is beautiful. I'm heading towards Keld. Keld was pretty quiet. I think the Keld Lodge was shut for the winter. I didn't plan to actually stay in Keld, so I walked past and through Keld, carried on down here. I took a decision to take the alternative Swaledale route, which I did, which is quite glad I did really, because it was a very nice walk. Coming down here, made up some good pace there. And come right the way down the bottom here, still following the River Swale, beautiful. As I'm coming across there. I'm sorry, not there. There, a bit of a swell to Gunnerside. By now, I'm entering Gunnerside, and the sun's starting to set. So I'm starting to think about Bivi sites. I can pass through Gunnerside. Bear in mind, I had water and food with me, and I did stop here. This area here, I bivvied here, just behind a stone wall. Again, it was sun had set by now, so it'd gone 6 o'clock. So I set my bivvy up, had some food, which I had, some cold food and a drink, electrolyte fruit, and got my head down for the night. Another cold night, another minus night, -5 maybe, really cold. And again, I was up the next day early. But this particular day, which was day 6, that was a walking distance, total of 16.5 miles completed. And like I said, I'm just sort of about 95.5 miles completed, but it was a 16.5 mile day on day 6. So day 7, I'm up. It's quite cloudy. I had to go back onto the route. I think I dropped up or down to Bivi. So I'm back on the route, still on the alternative Swelldale route, heading up here, heading towards Reef. I was really looking forward to some sort of cooked food at this point and resupply. Got into Reef, there was a nice little shop, little post office convenience store, so I resupplied. And the lady in there told me about a cafe, which was called just bear me a second, it was called I think it was called the Cycle Shop. I think it was the Dales Bike Centre in Low Fremington. So the Dales Bike Centre in Low Fremington was just outside Reef, and it was down this area here. Where are we? It's High Fremington, Low Fremington. I think it was just here. Come off there. I think it was here. So I stopped there into the Dales Cycle Bike Centre, and it had a really nice coffee and a lovely breakfast. So I recommend that. I'll put some information on the screen. So I stayed there for an hour or so to recoup. So I was feeling good after that. I carried on following the River Swale. A lot of people stop here. There's a YHA there at Grinton, but obviously I'm carrying on down here following the Swale, passing through there. Marrick Priory. I was going to have a look, but a couple of coaches had pulled in. It was really busy, so I carried on through Marrick. Actually, as I'm coming up here, past mile mark 100, 105 up here to, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Marsk, St Edmund's Church. There's an honesty box. I went inside, got a drink and some chocolate, and I had my lunch there in the churchyard on a bench. That was beautiful, really quiet, solitude, peaceful. So I had my lunch there. That was great. Left some money obviously for the drink and the chocolate. So thank you for the church for that. That's St Edmund's Church there in Marsk. Carried on, following the path here into Richmond's. By now it was quite late in the afternoon, and I thought, well, I'm in Richmond. I might as well look for an accommodation. And I did find an accommodation, and it was called, and bear me a second, it was called the Black Lion Pub. Yeah, the Black Lion Pub. I recommend that. I had a lovely room, had a bath in the room. Oh boy, that was really well appreciated. A nice hot bath. I managed to dry out all my kit, had some food, resupply. Great, thank you. I'll put some information on the Black Lion Pub. Recommend that. So that was great. I had a quick look around, bit of a look around Richmond in the area. It was a lovely place. Got a good night's sleep. Up next day. Next day was another blue sky day. Really fortunate with that. Carried on my way. Just be careful as you're coming through. Although it's in Richmond, I found there's a bit on this. I lost the path or lost the sign, so I must have taken a wrong. Not much, only by sort of 100, 200 feet or something. But I managed to get back on the path again. Followed it out of Richmond. Coming down. Here we are. Coming down this way here to, where are we? Mile marker 113. I think Catterick is over. Catterick Garrison's there. Coming through here, still the River Swale on my left. Brompton on Swale. Didn't actually go into Brompton on Swale, but I could have done if I wanted water, etc. You go over underneath these roads here, the A1, and once you get past them, you cross over a bridge and you follow it down and around here. There's a nice, Bolton-on-Swale was a nice little village, pass through that, and a quick look around, go through these fields here. I'm heading towards this Hodbar Hill plantation. Again, I had no accommodation in mind booked. Was I going to bivvy? Was I going to stay somewhere? This was now quite a flat area. So, like I said, I'd come out of the Lake District Park, National Park. I was in the Yorkshire Dales, and then which is the previous bit here, which I've shown you before. As you come out of the Yorkshire Dales, it starts to go quite flat. The bit between the Yorkshire Dales and the Norfolk Moors is this area, which is quite flat. So as you're coming across through this Hodbar plantation, heading towards Danby Wisk, which is there, very flat and a bit of road, quite a bit of road walking. So that was a bit strange on the feet after all the moors and mountains I've been on, and it's flat as well. So yeah, lovely day. Got into Danby Wisk. Bit disappointed because the pub was shut. Apparently the owners were on holiday, but I did get speaking to this really nice guy, and he said there was a farm which I'd actually made a note actually. It was called Home Chapel Farm. Let me just double check that. It was called. Just bear me a second. Home Church Farm. Sorry. Yeah, I recommend. I'll put some information on the screen. Home Church Farm. I stayed there for the night, and I could have camped, but I actually went in their accommodation because they had a bath. Oh, it's my age. I just needed the bath. I needed to dry my kit out. And they had like a nice little area where you can make a brew, and there was like a little tuck shop with food and a fridge with bits and pieces in, so I resupplied there. The lady who I spoke to who runs it or owns Home Church Farm, they were going to the fish and chip shop, and she asked me if I wanted fish and chips. Well, the answer was obviously yes. So they went out and kindly got me fish and chips, so I had that fish and chip supper, which was really nice, and a hot bath, so that was needed. This night, by the way, that was now day 8, and that's 14 miles completed. That was a 14-mile day, and I passed, well, it was nearly 124 mile marker now, so well over halfway. That night was freezing, so I was inside actually the accommodations, which I'm glad. Another heavy frost, another -7 at least. So that was quite good. Another night I'm there. So the next day again, another nice day. Up a bit later this time. I didn't get going till probably about 10 o'clock, maybe a bit later, which is a late start for me. I did meet another coast-to-coast walker, the only other coast-to-coast walker I've met on the entire route, and he was doing it from east to west. So we exchanged notes, had a good chat, and said our farewells and just went our separate ways. So that was quite nice to meet someone else doing the walk. I carried on here. I got this A167, wasn't too bad a road. Walked along that for a bit. This here is this is a bit weird bit here. You've probably seen it on other YouTube videos where you go through this little farm and there's an honesty box, and there's also like things like little sonic sound activated skulls and spiders and witches. Just a bit of a joke really, but that was quite cool. Crossed the railway there, so be careful crossing that. Actually crossed the railway line and then carried on. It's now mile marker 130. Heading towards the A19, which is quite infamous, I suppose. When you get to this A19, you've got to negate, you've got to cross it, and it's very busy, both directions. I think is it dual carriageway? I think it was, but just before there's a shell garage, so I stopped there, had a drink, relaxed, spoke to the person there about what I was doing, resupplied, got some food, I waited, chilled out watching the traffic, and then just picked my moment. And you do literally, I did have to run actually to the central reservation. Be careful because there's not any central reservation there's a slip road. So you have to have your wits about you. So I managed to cross. Boy, I was relieved to have done that. And then I was heading towards Ingleby Arncliffe and Ingleby Cross, which are beautiful little places. I had my lunch actually at Ingleby Cross in the village green there. Got chatting to a few people. Which is good. I was talking to one chap. He was out on his Triumph motorbike because I've actually got a classic scooter.
So that was quite nice to talk to him about that, something different. And he was talking about walking coast to coast, and he'd like to do it. So that was a nice chat there. After that, on my way again, heading towards the Armcliffe Wood. This is a bit of a climb up through the woods, sort of switchbacks on itself. It's quite steepish. And then you come out onto the, it's a Scarf Wood Moor. Here you come onto the walls, and you just follow this path down here, which I think it is still the, I think it's still the Dales Way. I believe it is. You're still following the path round, but at this point there's some beautiful views across the plain here, this area. 139 miles walk there, just past that. Heading towards a place called Lordstones, and when I'm up here it's starting to sunset, and there, by the time I get to Lordstones the sun's dipping. I'm thinking, well, I need to bivvy. But there was no one at Lordstones, the cafe was shut, there was no one around, so I chose to bivvy there, actually, on one of their, on the decking of one of their glamping pods. So I stayed there the night, and another freezing cold night. I was up very early, about 5 in the morning, and I was on my way just to get moving. That was now day 9, sorry. So that was day 9, and I completed, that was a 16-mile day on day 9 to Lordstones from Downey Wisk. The next day I was up, another nice day, but freezing cold, -7+ night. And there's some walking up here, which is great, it's got my heart rate going, which is what I needed. Some beautiful views up here. Coming across, I was heading towards the Wainstones. They were quite unusual, very nice. I sat down, had a bit of a snack there, just took in the ambience of the whole area, which was pretty good actually. Met a few other people, had a good little bit of a chat with a couple of people there, some cyclists. The Cleveland Way, sorry, this is on the Cleveland Way, so I'm following the signs now for the Cleveland Way. There were a few coast to coast signs, but mainly you've got to be aware that you're following the Cleveland Way here. Coming across the top here, Claybank Top. This point here, I met a gentleman called Pat, really nice guy, had a good chat with him. He'd set out to do the coast to coast years ago, before when he was younger, and he said he didn't manage it. I didn't actually ask him too much, but he started out at St Bees, and he had to stop it at Ennerdale, so obviously just didn't get far, so something must have happened. He said he just didn't feel right. But I don't know, he said he might have a go again in the future. But he was a really nice guy, I had a good chat with him. Carrying along, nice, sun was out by now, which is quite nice. I saw a few lizards actually, which is strange, but early in the season, that the sun was out, so they were sort of stuttling around a bit as I'm passing them, so that was quite nice. I'm coming still on the Cleveland Way, mile marker 147, coming across the top here, Farndale Moor, which is quite nice. Again, really nice views. Heading now, it's actually quite warm actually, because I'm picking up a pace, and the sun's out, so I'm heading for the Lion Inn. The Lion Inn will be my stop for the night. I got to the Lion Inn quite early, so bear in mind that the Lion Inn was, I'm just looking at this here, some of the notes, it was day 10. That was day 10 I spent at the Lion Inn. Day 10 was a 12-mile day, and I spent the night at the Lion Inn. I got bed and breakfast accommodation. Now, I must admit, it's very reasonably priced. I think it was, bed and breakfast was, I think it was £50 for the night, which is very good. And again, I had a lovely little room, and there was a bath as well. Got some food, relaxed. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was quite a half day really, but I think I needed the rest. So that was day 10 done. Like I say, that was 12 miles. So that's the Lion Inn. I recommend that. I'll put some information on the screen. The next day I was up a bit later. I didn't get going till about gone 10, and then on my way, you pass a little, like I think there's a boundary marker, quite an ancient one called Fat Betty. I think people tend to leave like little snacks and treats to exchange for hire, because I couldn't see anything on it. Bear in mind there was not many coaster coasters. I only met one coaster coaster on the whole 12 days I was walking. I carried on across the moor here, down behind moor. I'm now heading towards Glaisdale. So the miles are sort of starting to fall away now. Pretty easy-ish walking, not too bad. So I got to Glaisdale, passed through Glaisdale, had a bit of a look around. Nice little place, quite quiet. I didn't really need to, at this stage, get any food or water. So I come out through Glaisdale. I passed through down here. This is really nice wood down here. Yeah, this is really quite picturesque down here. Is it Delves? So still following the river here, heading towards Egton Bridge. There is Egton Bridge. It was quite nice. So yeah, I passed through there. I didn't resupply. I carried on to Grosmont, and I found a little shop there, and I resupplied there. Got some food, lunch, some snacks, and water. So that was nice. I chose to have my lunch. I walked through Grosmont and carried on out the other side. There's a steep hill. I think a lot of people on YouTube have put about this hill. So there's a nice little hill coming out of Grosmont, which I did. Takes you right up to the top here. I chose to have my lunch. There's a nice bench up here. There's a good view. I chose to have my lunch there. I sat on the bench. The bench is actually a memorial. I think it was a lady called Lucy. The reason I know is the car pulled up while I was having my lunch, and the gentleman that got out, he was taking the old flowers and leaving some new flowers in memorial to Lucy, and Lucy was his wife. So he was telling me about his wife, bless her, and she wanted people to enjoy that bench and the view for walkers like myself on the coast to coast. So that was quite nice. He's quite pleased about that. So I did. I took the time to have my lunch on that bench. Nice memorial to a lady called Lucy. I think she passed away in 2020, I believe. I could be wrong. So I had my lunch. Carried on up towards Slates Moor, or over Slates Moor. And at this point here, I point out on the walk, I did see some nice wildlife. Like I say, I saw red deer, a red squirrel, I saw lizards. I did briefly on one of the moors see the back end. I think it was an adder, but I couldn't quite tell. I was just going across. It was on the day. So it just goes to show, even though it was early March, when the sun was out, a lot of wildlife was out as well, which is quite nice. But on this Slates Moor, I did actually come across. I've never seen one of these before. I got I put a photograph of it, which might have been in my previous video. It was a natterjack toad, which are quite rare actually. I saw it on this moor as I was coming across here. Anyway, I progressed the A169. You walk along for a bit, which is I think pretty quiet. At this point, it's getting reasonably late in the day. I'm thinking about, should I bivvy? Where should I stay? I got to, I think it's a really nice place called Littlebeck down here. And I sat down. There's a little Methodist church. Looked around there and sat down on the bench. Had something to eat. And I thought, well, shall I press on? I mean, if I was going to press on and finish the entire walk, it would have been ridiculous because it would have been really late finish into the night. Really late. So I thought, well, I'll stay the night. And I prefer to stay somewhere in accommodation so I could just recoup and get some food, cook breakfast and dry out, etc. Have a nice bath if possible. But I was really lucky. When I was sitting on the bench, I noticed a sign to Intake Farm. I've made a previous note about that. So I rung the number. Before I did, I rung another number of accommodation. No one answered. So I rung Intake Farm, and the lady answered. And she had, although it was early in the season, I caught on a bit on the hop, I think. She said, yeah, by all means, we've got accommodation. So I had to walk back up this path here to Intake Farm. Really lovely lady, really welcoming. Stayed the night there. She gave me a brew on arrival and some homemade cake. Had a really lovely cooked breakfast, a lovely room. There's a nice bath as well, so I had a nice hot bath. So I recommend Intake Farm. I'll put some information on the screen. So that was really nice. I think the lady was called Judith. So yeah, I recommend Intake Farm. So had a good night's sleep. Again, I set off reasonably late. It was after 10 o'clock, half 9, 10. I was walked back down the path, back onto the trail. Carried on down here, Littlebeck, which is a lovely place, through this wood here. You've probably seen on previous videos, you go past a little, I think it's called, here it is, the Hermitage. I believe a hermit did live there, apparently, so that's quite nice. I saw that. That's on some video about my previous video. And then you pass Falling Foss Waterfall, which is quite nice. So it's just very, very quaint, very beautiful down here. And then you come out, there's a bit of a climb up here on this road. And the if you don't you can see that there's a stamp probably from Littlebeck. Now the Coast to Coast is a nationally recognised trail. You get it. You can buy a passport book. You can get stamps from the accommodations, etc. I didn't have that book. It's only just literally come out, and the lady at Intake Farm has only just really recently got the stamp. But kindly she stamped my guidebook there. So when you guys, those of you who do undertake the walk in the future, you'll get a passport booklet and you can get stamps if you're staying in accommodation, which is quite nice. And I've got a nice one there on my map of Littlebeck. Anyway, I come out out of this valley here, which is lovely, following the path up. I carried on past GPS marker, past mile marker 174. As you can see, I can now see, I've got a glimpse of the sea, the North Sea as I'm coming across, which is nice. That really gave me a bit of encouragement. I'm quite near the end, as you can see. It's pretty straightforward. The last walk in, you go through low Horsker, I believe that's how you pronounce that, High Horsker Bottoms. You go through a caravan park here. You literally go right through the centre of the caravan park, in between all the mobile homes. You come out onto the path, onto the coast there, and then that's it. You can see right down to the North Sea. It was a Saturday when I finished, so I wasn't used to the amount of people around. Actually, there were a lot of people in this area, cyclists and walkers. In the last 12 days, there's hardly not many people. So there's a lot of people on the walk. It's a formality now. I'm pretty excited, so I'm almost near the end. Great views of Robin Hood's Bay. Come into Robin Hood's Bay, and that's it. That's the walk completed. Over 180 miles, probably a little bit more than that. Again, 12 days it took me. I started on the 12th of March, and I spent 5 nights in hostels and B&Bs, and 6 nights wild camping in my bivvy tent. Just a point to note, when you come down to Robin Hood's Bay, there is, when you walk down, there's the Wainwright's Inn, I believe, which is the pub right at the end. A couple of things you guys might know this, but it's worth mentioning. There are CCTV cameras on that pub and around the corner of the pub, looking out onto the beach, which are filming you. My partner actually managed to record me walking down from that CCTV, which is nice, and walking out onto the beach. There is a website. I'll try to put a link up to that, or some information, so you know how you can get that footage or watch other walkers finish the coast to coast as well, which is quite nice. So I do that. The other thing is the Wainwright's bar. When I went in, they congratulate you. I think in the past I used to get a free drink, but I didn't. However, someone bought me a free drink anyway. A nice young lady bought me a drink, which is really cool. And if you ask behind the bar, there's a register which you can sign your name and put some comments about the coast to coast register, which is quite nice. So that was the walk. I will say a few things, which I think I mentioned before. Totally recommend it. If you haven't done it, definitely think about doing it. It's well worth it. I particularly chose to do the walk in early March. There's a few reasons for that. I don't like lots of crowds, so I like to. I'm not saying I don't like to speak to people, but I like it to be quite solitude. So that's why I chose March. it was colder, but I looked for the right weather opportunity, which worked out right for me. The other thing about doing it early in the season, although some accommodations are shut, the ones that are open have got availability, which is quite nice. There are less insects, not that I dislike insects, but midges and mozzies, etc. I know some of you aren't, there's this big issue with cows. I'm walking through farmers' fields and cows. The other thing is doing it in early March, the cows aren't out in the fields, it's only sheep. You might come across some conservation cattle like, I don't know, belted Galloways or Highland cattle, but the majority of dairy cattle, etc., aren't actually out till, usually I think, I've got speaking to a farmer, not usually till about late April, May. So that's another reason. So you don't have to worry about bulls or cows in fields and insects and crowds of people, which I quite like. So that's why I chose early March to do the walk. Anyway, one other point, when I finished, I did carry on and I stayed at the YHA at Boggle Hole, which has some quite reasonably cheap rooms, and they've also got like a little bar and you can get food there. And then obviously I stayed there, and then the next day I made my arrangements for travelling back. I think that's it. So thank you for watching all my videos and this particular little map video. And again, you know, if you haven't done the coast to coast and you're thinking about it, definitely consider it because it's well worth it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and if you like the video, please click like and please subscribe. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed watching my coast to coast video and it does inspire some of you to get out there and undertake the walk. Please do click like and please do subscribe if you can. Many thanks. Bye.